Welcome to the Science of Tree Felling series. In this video, we're going to talk about ergonomics, stance, and grip. Ergonomics is basically how much energy you are using to perform the function that you're trying to work with. In this particular case, it's holding onto and controlling a chainsaw. So how much energy we're putting into holding on and controlling the chainsaw is an expulsion of energy. We're using energy. And if we're using energy to hang on to and control the chainsaw, that's less energy that we're able to use to think about what it is that we're doing and what we're doing next, and are we doing it safely. So we want to reduce the amount of energy put into just hanging on to and controlling the chainsaw. And how do we do that? A couple of different ways. Notice first of all how close I have this chainsaw to me. Now when the chainsaw is running, I'm still going to have the chainsaw this close to me. The further I push the chainsaw out away from my body, the more energy it takes for me to hang on to, and the less control over the saw that I have. I know that when we're operating a chainsaw, and if you're new to operating chainsaws, they are loud and terrifying. They have razor blades operating at 70 miles an hour, and we have to know and control that fear and understand that actually holding the saw closer to us is safer than holding the saw further away from us because of how we are allocating that energy. So with the saw held close to my body, I have a lot of control over the saw. Not only can I use my right and left arms, but I can also use my body to help support some of the weight of the saw. The saw is fairly heavy. Throughout this video, I'll probably become fairly fatigued just hanging onto it without doing a whole lot of movement. But it's going to be a lot easier to hang on to the saw in this orientation than it is further away. Next thing I want you to notice is my stance. I have a nice wide stance, legs about shoulder width apart, and I want to keep this stance throughout my use of the chainsaw. Our stance needs to be a powerful one and a sturdy one, a stable one. Sometimes when we're out in the woods, we may be in situations that are not on flat ground, on sloped terrain, or maybe there's debris that we have to try to navigate over. But before we ever start cutting with a chainsaw, we need to make sure that both of our feet have a good grip, a solid grip on the ground, and are unable to slip or move, and that we're planted in a fashion that's going to give us a powerful stance and good control over the saw. Last thing I want to talk about here is the grip associated with the saw. All chainsaws are designed to be right-handed. I'll put an asterisk on that. All commercially available chainsaws now are designed to be right-handed. There's a few historical models that I've seen in museums that were designed to be left-handed, but to my knowledge, those are not easily available and certainly not manufactured today. So sorry left-handed people, but all saws are designed to be right-handed. And so why do I say that the chainsaw is designed to be used for right-handed use? I say that, again, because of the asymmetry of the saw, which means that the bar, the sharp parts, and the chain are all located on the right side as you look at it from an operator's perspective of the saw, so that when I am using the saw, I'm cognizant of where all the sharp and dangerous parts are, or the business end of the saw. And I want to think about always when I'm cutting, should anything cause this saw to react violently back towards me, where will that chain and bar go? So as a design of a right-handed saw, I know that operating it in this orientation with my right hand on the rear handle and my left hand on the front handle, and with the saw properly oriented on the side of my body so that the plane of the bar and chain is outside of the plane of existence of my body, if this does happen to decide to come back, I hit an object, an unknown object that I didn't know. We'll talk about the kickback, corner, and reactive forces in a different video. But should this thing come back and kick back at me, now I know that I'm safe because the plane of the bar and chain operating on the right side of your body where it properly belongs is now outside of the striking plane of your body. Conversely, if I am operating the chainsaw left-handed, that puts the chain so much closer to my fleshy bits of my body, and I cannot operate this chainsaw in any fashion that would then cause the chain and bar to be outside of the plane of my body. So any way that I would be cutting, now I am in a striking hazard of the soft fleshy bits of my body, my arms, my legs, my face, none of which I want to have happen. So please do always use the saw in the correct orientation, and that is right-handed. So in a right-handed stance and grip, I have my right hand on the back handle with the throttle and my left hand on the front wrap handle. And with this, I'm able to easily control the saw. As you can see, my grip then is such that my fingers are wrapped around both handles and my opposing thumbs are also wrapped around both handles. My thumbs are not up and out of the handles at any point in time. They're completely enveloped and wrapped around each handle. So should the saw react in a fashion that is not in my favor, I have the most powerful grip to maintain control over the saw. If I do something simply like moving my thumb out on the opposite side of the handle, or that I'm not wrapped around anymore, now my hand has the opportunity to slip out. Whereas if it's locked in around my thumb, it can't overcome that. It always will be locked in and I'll have good control over this saw. And that also pertains to in any other fashion that we're hanging on to this saw. Maybe we're hanging onto the saw like this. Maybe we're hanging on to the saw like this. My fingers and my thumbs are still wrapped around and opposing each other with good control, or somewhere in between. Again, fingers and thumbs opposing each other, so I have maximum control all the time on the saw. The biggest failing that I see when people are just learning how to use chainsaws is where they place their thumbs. Especially if you get a saw that starts to become dull in the cut, you'll have a tendency to place your thumb up and away or on the top of this handle at very least, or maybe you get relaxed and you start placing your thumb on the top of your back handle or trigger handle too. In either case, you have less control of the reaction of the saw. And this is the biggest failing that I see of most new users of saws. They have a tendency to put their thumb on top, which is a very dangerous position to be in. When we get to the chapter on reactive forces, I'll talk a little bit more about why that is. But be cognizant when you're first learning how to use a saw and ingrain in yourself that you always need to have your hands wrapped around the handle. The name for that is called a power grip. And if you think about a power grip, it's the same grip that you would grip a gallon of water or a jug of water with. Because it's a heavy object and you want maximum control over it, you grab it with your thumb and fingers opposing, wrapping completely around the handle, and that will optimize your ability to control and react to any of the forces that the saw puts into play. Hey, if you like these videos and you found something interesting or learned something today, make sure you like and subscribe and continue watching this series. There's a lot of really good videos on here on how to become better. Maybe you're already skilled in tree felling or arboriculture, but it never hurts to hear another person's perspective and learn a little something along the way. So again, if you like what you're watching, like and subscribe and keep on to the next series. See you next time.